All right, Roger here from Roger's Hot Rod Garage. And before I button up this little project right here on the 1955 Nomad with the LS3 in it, just because there's a lot of question on binary and trinary switches for air conditioning. I'm not claiming to have figured it out, but I've done probably like 5 or 6 of these things. So I got my light up in here right now, and this is what's known as a trinary switch. Basically, it has more than one wire or 2 wires running out of it. Binary is your typical high-low pressure safety switch for your compressor that sits way down in there. And the reason they did that is because if you have less than, I think it's 38, 40 psi of pressure on the low side, or more than 250 on the high side, this switch right here, through these wires, tells the compressor not to cut on so you don't burn up in a dry conditioner or overpressurize your system if something's not working. The trinary switch basically just adds that second or third circuit to it, which basically says ventilator right over there, cut on if I'm sitting in traffic and I'm not going down a road, to keep the condenser cool. So what that basically means, if the condenser gets hot, too hot, it builds up too much pressure on the low side, and so when you're sitting in traffic, you want the ventilator to cut on just like any modern car. So the method to my madness here is I always install the trinary switch and run it into the electric fan if you happen to have one on your car. So that's basically it. So you have to do that with a relay right here. This is a simple 30-40 amp relay. And what I do is, you see that little the writing up there where it says 30 amp, 40 amp on there, and then 30, 87, and so forth. But very important, I take it and label everything. Now these are already cut off, my little pigtails. That's the ground, obviously. This one came out of the trinary switch, goes to the fan relay, and I solder everything. And this is just one I cut a little bit too long, so I shorted it up. Solder it, heat shrink it, and then you know, you can just tie wrap your stuff together if you want to, but if you crimp it and solder it, I can guarantee you're never ever going to have issues. But anyway, there's my dryer unit. There's my little sight window in there, and then it runs out the other side. Now I'll clean these wires up, and then again, another safety thing, everything I do, if it's got big power, so you're running more than 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 amps, throw a fuse on it, just so you don't burn your stuff up if you've got something touching. And then I'm just going to put it in this little, right here, this little, I guess, conduit, you got it. And this white wire right here, still hanging down right here, I'm going to run this all the way over, down here, all along this edge right here, and then right here, I'm going to tuck it in. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me put my light over here just a second. And right there is my touch point. I'm going to unravel this right here, splice it here. Again, I'll solder it, and then the way I had this the last time, I just tucked it in here, out of sight, out of mind. So that's the same thing I'll do. This runs this big giant fan on the back, the 2 on the front, and again, sitting in traffic, it actually cuts it on if you're sitting in traffic, if the pressure on the condenser gets a little bit too high. I just had basically my tube out of it right now, so I can just access it a little bit better. But they're sitting right here. Run this right here, big giant soldering arm, and this is what I just typed on my heat shrink with. Anyway, pretty simple project for today, and that buttons up the entire air conditioning product. From Vintage AC is the main part of it. I can press my own hoses right now. If you ask yourself what are those little orange dots on there, that's just my method of quality control, QC. That means I've tapered that one down and I've got an O-ring in it and it's all sealed up and everything. So air conditioning works fine on here. And again, I'm doing the final touches on it. So another little, again, you know, everybody does how they want to do it. But anytime I deal with electrical, although I think I'm pretty decent electrical, I come draw myself a little picture. So ignition 12 volts goes to the AC unit switch, whether it's one of those fancy dancy automated units where there's simple mini underdash unit. This goes plus to the trinary switch input, and then it goes out to the compressor. This circuit right here is your low and high pressure, so that's the safety one. And it goes to your compressor, and then obviously your compressor goes to low input 134A, and then high output 134A as well. So this is just your compressor right here, and then the condenser and the evaporator and the rest of the stuff down here. This right here is your trinary switch. Tri means 3. You actually have 4 out here because you have an input coming in from ground, which I've already got tapped off over there. And then this one goes over to the relay. This is all my relay that I just showed you over there. So 86 and 85 are the switchers, and then 30 and 87, which is the plus and minus. So you come in with big yellow from a big power source someplace. I took mine directly from the starter, the same input. And this actually relays, switches over, and gives the 12, the white cable I just showed you, over to the fan, and it works just fine. And again, these are the switches, which is a ground, and it doesn't trigger it with 12 volts, it triggers with ground. So I've got this one right here, the 12 volts, loop back right here, so it pulls the 12 volts because you're triggering this thing with a ground going through that little trinary switch I just showed you. Anyway, method of my madness, again, 265, it cuts on for the condenser, and then 30 PSI is the lowest, the safety off. And I call that the idiot control or the safety switch on the trinary switch. Again, all this stuff you can either order from ebay.com or you go to Vintage AC and those cats will order it for you. What else can I tell you? Nothing going on right here. We got about the 21st, I think it's the 21st of June 2022. And I got my 58 sitting way out there waiting on a set of brakes. The 30 Ford Coupe is right here. Just did an HEI upgrade to it, not upgrade, but I just replaced the HEI after 10 years of the Chevrolet HEI on the BMW motor. I'll do this one right here. This is a 78, 79, Camaro 6-cylinder HEI unit. What else can I show you in here? That's about it. Rim showed up for the 914 Porsche with the LS3. There they are right now. I'll do a video number 15 here in probably a couple of days. And that's from a company called Maxolite in Switzerland. The picnic table everybody knows, the motorized one. And 1957 NSU, which is Audi Lambretta. And this is a 1959 AVL Berlin. And anyway, I got picked up a couple other cool things here. It's been a while since I posted anything, but let me get busy here again, or giddy up as they say. That's a really, really cool one of those saws that does it back here. Picked it up for cheap. Not the most efficient thing in the world, but we'll go from there. And I think that's about it. Great hot weather here, except today it rained a little bit, which is good because we needed the rain. And I got my shop all cleaned up and everything because we had a little barbecue party. This is going into the Apache. So this is all stuff off of eBay. This is that bracketry set. So I'm going to lose what we call the single cylinder, if you lose brake anywhere line. I converted this one and fixed it all up, but I went ahead and went online. I got myself the dual diaphragm right here, 8-inch, and then also dual lines right here, so it's not a death trap. Using everything original up here. But anyway, the point of it is the Trinary air conditioning switch. So I'm glad I got to show that to you. I'll button that up and call that a day after I run that last line over here, and then I've got completely automated air conditioning system in this thing. So take care, bye-bye. All right, man, close the project up. Everything actually worked. Show everybody how this thing cycles right now. And like I said, everything's back on here. Got this back on here, everything hooked up. I like the little clean installation down here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's nice and clean. Everything's tie wrapped. Sight pictures on there, and I'll just reach in here real quick. And I had this thing down to like 38 degrees. So I'll cut the compressor off real quick. You just heard it click. So everything's running. And this is that vintage AC unit. I'll go ahead and cut the lights on so you can actually see the little lights down in here. And you just basically turn it over. As soon as I do that, you'll hear it click on. And the AC compressor will click on. You heard it click on. And then here, I got my little temperature gauge right down here. And then I'll go outside here and I'll show you how this thing cycles. Not only the compressor, you'll see the compressor is actually on down there right now. And that's actually being controlled by the trinary switch. And as soon as the pressure, you just heard the fan cut on, cut back off, you'll hear it start spinning. Compressor off and on, and basically this little brain right down here does all the guesswork for you. I mean, it takes all the guesswork out of it. Compressor cycling, fan cuts on. Now, if I'm going down the road right now and the air's blowing in here, I don't need to cool the condenser. And what cooling the condenser does is actually lowers the pressure on the high side. Bingo, it just cut on. This is just for traffic if you're sitting in a stall someplace. And again, the temperature is not hot today, so it cuts on and off. Also, tschüss, take care, bye-bye. Look, one of my fans is filming me right now. Secret filmer.